Next up, let's flip the script. Bring in our guy Joey Knight from the Tampa Bay Times, talking all things college football. Joey, thanks so much for joining us, man. How's your day going today?
Going great, buddy. How's yours?
Doing well, man. Talking a little everything, Bucks, Rays, Juan Soto, but man, college football has just been so. This has been, I think, one of the wildest years when it comes to storylines. And people look at, all right, well, it's going to be a 12-team playoff, and games aren't going to mean as much. I think quite the opposite, Joey. I just feel like every single week there's just another storyline, and now the college football playoff has been announced, 12 teams in. Any surprises there for you, including, Alabama not making it in, SMU getting that 11th seed there?
That was probably the only surprise. And count me among those purists who thought the bigger the playoff, the more it would diminish the significance of the regular season, the greatest regular season in sports. I was dead wrong on that because I'm still watching. I'm still enthralled by it all. The games, so many games in late November mattered. So I'll be the first to acknowledge I was dead wrong about the playoffs' impact on the regular season. I am a little surprised that Alabama was left out because they have a strong lobbying arm there between the commissioner of that league and the power brokers in that program, and the fact they played a better schedule in the regular season and won some significant games. When you think of Missouri, the big win against Georgia, I think South Carolina was among the teams they beat. They were 3-1 against top 25 teams at that time, and SMU had no such wins. And so when Nick Saban goes on national television and talks about what are we doing here if we're not considering the strength of schedule, I think he has a valid point. I think the committee was in a no-win situation, and had they omitted SMU from the field, they would essentially been saying these conference title games mean nothing.
Right.
So I think they were kind of between a rock and a hard place, for lack of a better term. Again, there was no right answer. But I think it's going to cause some teams to really reevaluate their schedules unless the committee comes forward and says, okay, strength of schedule is going to be a definite criterion. It's something we're going to put more of an emphasis on going forward. I mean, what's the incentive for going out and, getting your brains beat in every week? Everybody wants to see these marquee games, non-conference and conference, but what's the point if it's going to penalize you come playoff time?
Yeah, that's a great point. And you have to wonder, Alabama now making all this noise, do they try to get out of that game with USF next year? I mean, that's, who knows, right? Because now there's going to be teams that are looking at it going, all right, we'll spend the money to get out of this game because we need to reschedule, we need to pivot, we need to go here. So we'll see. We'll see about the backlash and kind of some of the ramifications for certain teams not making it into the 12-team playoff. I want to ask you about USF going to Hawaii. Byrum Brown is on these videos now, and he's talking about he's going to Hawaii. I mean, if I was a betting man a couple of weeks ago, and just because Alex Golesh has been playing so close to the vest, I just wondered if Byrum Brown played his last snap for the USF Bulls, right? We know that there were some people thinking that he could have left after last year, but the NIL came in, took care of him. What is your thoughts on the whole Byrum Brown situation for USF? Do you think he's going to play in the bowl game? Do you think he's going to move on after this year and go to somewhere else?
I can't get a read on it, Jay.
It's tough, man. It's tough.
It's something that's baffled me all season. We've asked Alex Golesh throughout the season about Byrum's status, and the refrain we get pretty much all the time is he's practicing. It's just a matter of, for lack of a better term, paraphrasing, it's a matter of Byrum's pain tolerance because he does so many things with his legs, and when he can't do that without experiencing significant pain, it takes away a dimension of his game. So it's just all about how much he can withstand. That's kind of the refrain we've gotten all year, but we've been getting that refrain for about 3 months now.
Right.
And I thought the transfer portal officially opened at midnight today. I thought he would be in the portal by now. That's just where my instincts and my sense told me this was going. This was a guy who hadn't played since the third or fourth game of the season. We would see him in the transfer portal. He would move on. That hasn't happened yet. And as you mentioned, USF's official X account is posting these videos of him out there practicing, looking at the camera saying, see y'all in Hawaii.
Yeah.
So I can't get a read on what's going on. Is he loyal to Alex Golesh and wants to stick with this program and see the rebuild through? Perhaps. Is it really just a business decision? He doesn't want to further damage whatever this injury is to his lower left leg, so he's playing it cautious as kind of a business decision. Perhaps. I just don't know. Like I said, I thought he would be in the portal by now, but he isn't. So I can't get a read going forward. If they're taking the time to send out these snippets, these videos showing him practicing, showing him making throws in practice and things of that nature, it leads me to believe maybe we'll see him in the Hawaii Bowl. I don't know. I just, I've been doing this for 33 years, and I've been covering college football for about a quarter century. And over time, I've, come to get a good read on things like this of what a kid's going to do just based on what he says, what his mannerisms are, what his quotes are. But I just can't get a read on this. And we haven't spoken to Byrum since early October. I just don't know.
Joey, what do you make of the other quarterbacks in the room there? I mean, we can look at Bryce Archie, and it's funny because I looked at Bryce Archie last year. Then I saw him on the mound a couple of times, so he went into like baseball mode in my brain. I'm like, oh, this guy can really throw some heat. We know he's more of a traditional pocket passer. I think it took a little while for Alex Golesh to adjust his game plan to what he was doing there. At times he did have some good runs, but a lot of people were clamoring for Izzy Carter. And I know you were talking about this online. Now he's in the portal. Did it surprise you that they didn't go to Izzy at some point? Because it seems like his skill set was a little bit more similar to Byrum Brown. And why do you think he didn't get that opportunity? Because there were games out there and where Bryce wasn't as accurate with the football as Coach Golesh would like as a quarterback in his offense.
I wouldn't say it surprised me because we don't see Izzy Carter practice.
Right.
We don't see how he conducts himself in meetings. We don't see what his attitude's like on a daily basis. We don't see, how much he puts into nutrition and classwork and film study and doing all the right things. We don't know. We don't see any of that stuff behind the scenes. And I said this on social media. Alex Golesh is going to go with the guy who gives him the best chance to win. He's in the business of winning football games. And like I said on X, if he thought a Cocker Spaniel could win a game for him, he'd start the Cocker Spaniel. It's as simple as that. So I don't think there was any hidden motive by Golesh. Oh, this guy's playing baseball. He's not committing himself 100% to our football program. Right. I'm not going to start him. Or now, could it have been, he's not enamored with his film study habits or his practice habits? That could be something. Again, we don't see those things behind the scenes. But I do know he was throwing the guy out there every Saturday that he thought gave him the best chance to win. I don't think there was any ulterior motive to it. And what we saw with Bryce was a guy learning on the fly, a guy with some talent who hadn't played a lot before and had some good games and had some bad games. Inconsistency comes when you're just getting your feet wet and taking those initial steps, into the college game. It's perfectly normal. It kind of reminds me of after Danny Werfel at Florida, they went with Doug Johnson, who was also a baseball player, by the way. They threw him into the fire because he was the best guy they had available after Danny Werfel in 97. And he had some outstanding games and he had some duds where he just laid an egg, and they lost a couple of games that year, which was cataclysmic for Florida. So I kind of see the same thing with Bryce Archie, a young guy just learning to develop consistency, having some growing pains, some ebbs and some flows. It's perfectly natural. I think they've got a good insurance policy going forward for 2025. They've got a guy behind him, Marcellus Tate, who I haven't seen play, who I understand has a lot of upside, physical and skill-wise. And, of course, they went and got a quarterback in recruiting just, this past week on signing day. So for now, that's 3 scholarship quarterbacks if you don't include Izzy Carter, if you don't include Byrum Brown. Again, I don't know what Byram's going to do, but they've got some options there going forward. But the Izzy Carter thing, I just don't know what he was like behind the scenes. So I can't say what his impetus was for leading USF. But I know this: on Saturdays, Alex Golesh was going to run the guy out there that gave him the best chance to win. So all this nonsense about he
Yeah, it
had
was
an
personal.
ulterior motive. He
Yeah.
had it in for Izzy. I think that's nonsense.
Yeah, I agree with you. What do you make of the signing class here? Third in the AAC, third in the group of five there. There was people that were thinking going into the, before signing day, oh, can they be a number one, number two class in the conference? They come in at third. What was kind of your overall impressions of the guys that he was able to bring in?
Very solid. A class predominantly of 3 stars, which when you're at USF's level at this point in time is to be expected. I think it ended up being the third best class in the group of 5,
Mm-hmm.
whereas last year's was the best class in the group of 5. So they're on a par. They've got a lot to sell at that university, and just in terms of the facilities that they have now and the facilities they're going to have in the short-term future. I think that now Alex can go in there and tell these kids, hey, this sleek new state-of-the-art stadium that we're building, you're going to have a chance to play in it. He hasn't been able to say that in previous recruiting classes because the stadium's not set to open until 2027. But that's another selling point. I think they're okay on NIL for a school of that size and that level. So I don't think that's a terrible issue for where they are, in the American Athletic Conference. So there's a lot to sell, and Golesh is a good salesman, and they've righted the ship, or on course to right the ship after that dumpster fire before he got there. 2 6-6 seasons, 2 bowl games. They're trending in the right direction. So the class was about what I expected. Solid, on par with last year, and I don't see that changing.
Let's go down the road. And you wrote a great article of like, hey, man, you may not want to go back to the well again because there's not always great success there. But UCF brings Scott Frost back. They're trying to reclaim some of that glory that they had when they went undefeated, when they had all these big time victories. How did they get to this point? I know how they got this point as far as Gus Malzahn went there, but how did they end up like settling on Scott Frost? And do you think they're going to be able to kind of make that march back up to the top of the conference? Because, oh yeah, now they're in the Big 12. So it's a much different landscape than the last time that he was there with them.
Yeah, if Scott takes them back to the mountaintop, it'll take longer than 2 years.
Right.
like the last time, year 2 is when they had that dream season. I believe Terry Mohair, the AD over there, he said he did a national search. He vetted people. That's what athletic directors do. He said he talked to some coaches at the NFL level, some sitting college head coaches, some former college head coaches, and he had his conversation with Scott. And of course, Terry was not the AD when Scott was there the last time, so he was vetting Scott Frost too, as if he was a fresh candidate. I think what took Terry by what really captured him and endeared him to Scott was the fact that, Scott Frost's track record at UCF, obviously. He went to Nebraska and didn't have a lot of success at his alma mater, lost a lot of close games.
Yeah.
I think 23 of his 31 losses were by single digits. So it's not like the Huskers were getting blown out every week. They just couldn't finish. And I don't think Scott Frost forgot how to coach. I mean, Sean McVay took him on this year. He came from LA to that press conference Sunday. He's a consultant on McVay's staff in LA. So I don't think Scott Frost forgot how to coach. I think he endeared himself to the AD with his passion for UCF. He's a father of 3 now. He was a father of 1 when he left. And he made it clear at the press conference Sunday, Orlando is a place he wants to raise his family. There's a lot of things for kids in Orlando. They love the community there, in and around UCF. They love the people they worked with, the people they met. He alluded to something that, when he was climbing the coaching ladder, going from as an assistant in Oregon to UCF to Nebraska, somebody didn't tell him you need to stop at the rung where you're happy. I'm paraphrasing, but he basically said, when you're climbing the ladder of success, somebody needs to tell you, hey, stop at the rung where you're happy. And I think he was really happy at Orlando. So his love for the community, his passion for UCF, what he did before, I think that endeared him to the AD. But he made it clear this is going to take some time. Think about it. When he had UCF the last time in 2017, he had an NFL caliber quarterback before Mackenzie Milton got hurt. He had a defensive force of nature in Shaquem Griffin. He had speed merchants all over the field, and Adrian Killens and Mike Hughes and Gabe Davis. I mean, he had a veteran, talented team. Now that, this is big rebuild. Their best offensive player, R.J. Harvey, the tailback, I think he's done. Heck, they started 4 quarterbacks this past season. They couldn't find a starting quarterback. And even Scott said Sunday night when he met with the team, there weren't a lot of guys in that room. And there may be even less today as a result of the portal. So this is going to be a big rebuild. He's going into it knowing full well what he's got. He's not naive. And, he alluded to, yes, we're probably going to have to tap into the portal to do some things we want to do, but we're not going to sacrifice, the long-term success of this program for short-term success, meaning they're just not going to rebuild their team through the portal every year.
Right.
So this is going to take some time, some building, some culture establishing, some relationship building. But, I think it's a great hire for UCF. I was always very fond of Scott Frost and, what his demeanor, what he stood for. He obviously fostered an outstanding culture there at UCF, and everybody I talked to that's associated with his program spoke highly of that culture that he fostered. I think he's about the right things. I think it's a great hire for UCF.
Joey, before I let you go, what do you think is going to be the more competitive matchup here in Tampa, the Gasparilla Bowl between the Gators and Tulane, or the ReliaQuest Bowl between Alabama and Michigan?
I think it's going to be very anticlimactic for both of them because Tulane's quarterback, who's really good, has already entered the portal.
Right.
So presumably we won't see them. So Florida's going to be playing a diminished Tulane team. And Jalen Milroe, I'm pretty sure he's done.
Yeah.
I don't know if he has any eligibility left. I should have checked on that. But if he doesn't play, and, Alabama has a lot of other NFL caliber players who may opt out, Michigan too. So you may see 2 diminished teams in the ReliaQuest Bowl, which is sad because I was kind of looking forward to that matchup. And that's something that, college football has to consider going forward because you're going to see this all across these non-playoff bowls, guys opting out and really lessening, just the magnitude of these matchups. And for the college football fan, it's sad. What do you do? How do you keep these guys on board for the bowl games? You make them, in the NIL area, the revenue sharing era, you make them sign contracts to say, hey, you sign with us, you're playing 12 games and any postseason games, including a bowl. I don't know, but something has to be done because we're going to see more and more of this, and it's affecting the 2 Tampa Bowls in a hard way, and that's sad to see.
Yeah, it's a good point because, like we remember last year with LSU, we didn't get a chance to see Jaden Daniels play the Heisman Trophy winner, and he's running up and down the sideline as Nussmeier was doing his thing. He's Joey Knight, Tampa Bay Times, USF insider, college football insider, and just all around great dude. Joey, I appreciate you, brother. I know you're a very busy man. You be well, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks again for your time.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you.